If you're a boxing fan and never want to miss a fight, Boxing Showtimes is the app you need. This is a professional boxing schedule in your pocket that keeps you up to date on what's going on in the world of boxing. Download now.
Alright people, review of the week time. Before we talk about the news, we talk about some of the breaking news, we all talk about the fights that happened over the course of the weekend, primarily the Next Gen show, but we'll touch on a few other fights. Have a look on screen right there, right? I was made aware of this channel, well today actually, Sunday time we're recording this, called Inside the Distance. Joe Stunner Boxing was the guy who made me aware of it in his video. And I gave it a look. Very good videos, very good content so far. The guy is only starting out. I know the feeling. We all know the feeling starting out. Well, those of us who've done YouTube, no, we don't all know, but we know the feeling when you're starting out. It's slow. It's a slow burn. Boxing is a niche sport and it takes a while to grow. It definitely does. You know, I didn't just hit it like that off the bat. It took me a little bit of time. It took me nearly a year to get 1,000 subs. So go over there. I'm going to pin his channel in the comment section. I'm going to pin it there. Also, as you saw in the intro video, today's sponsor, Boxing Showtime, who I'm getting some of the news for, because they do a lot of boxing news. Some of the news I'll be reading will be off their website, off their app, which is going to be in the description. They are a very good sponsor of this channel. We're enjoying working with them. So please give them a look as well. But Inside the Distance, pinned in the comment section, is a link to his channel. I think he's only got about 45 subscribers. Could we get him to 100 subscribers? Could we do that? Could we actually get him to 100 subscribers? Let's see. Let's try. Now, we'll talk about some of the cards that happened over the course of the weekend. Now, first and foremost, Harlem Eubank fought on Friday night. I didn't get a chance to see that card. I didn't get a chance to see the fight, I should say. Apparently, he was the first guy to stop the guy he did fight. And look, I've watched Harlem Eubank a few times. I've been to one of his fights in the York Hall Live. I wasn't that impressed. You know, me, Ade, Akenbarak and David Diamante went to that. And none of us were really, we were kind of like, all right, the guy is tough. He was fighting, but he's not doing anything impressive. I think there was more wrestlers to the ground in that fight than there was anything else. So, wasn't an amazing fight. He got buzzed as well in that fight. Wasn't an amazing performance. And, you know, I didn't expect much from Harlem Eubank. Now he's got Eubank Sr. in his corner, basically kind of bigging him up. Look, he's talking about Conor Benn. Listen, Harlem Eubank's doing his own thing, right? I think he needs a little bit more time. There's saying that with Eubank Jr., when he came around first, there wasn't really anything that jumped out at him. There wasn't any particular power there. There wasn't much that jumped out, but he was having a decent enough career, certainly made enough money. So you never know with him. In terms of the Next Gen show, which is the main card that was on over the course of the weekend, Eddie Hearn made a return to these Next Gen shows. This was up in Newcastle. I think that's primarily where he's putting these Next Gen shows on. I only seen a few fights on it. I seen Ben Reese. He looked decent enough in his fight. That was only his third professional fight. He has a draw on his record. That was from the clash of heads in the first round at his pro debut. If it's within 4 rounds in the UK, it's an automatic draw. I seen Callum French against Jeff Orfo. I think is how you pronounce that name. I've seen him a few times. He fought O'Hara Davis a couple of years ago. Good performance. Callum French had a look. Didn't really jump out at me as too impressive. He got overwhelmed, overworked, and by the end, I think the corner threw in the towel in the 8th round. They did. Yeah, he was taking way too many shots in there. You know, the guy didn't have the power to drop him, but he was taking way too much for his liking. So that was a good stoppage by the corner. Ewan McKenzie, I can't recall ever seeing him fight. Now, he fought a guy called Ishmael Davis, who I believe was the away fighter. Although they were both undefeated, I believe he was the away fighter. And he was able to pick up the win. That was a decent little scrap. I also saw the main event, which was Habas Massoud versus a guy called Jose San Martin. That name rings a bell. Who have I seen him in there with? Mauricio Lara, that's it. That was the fight. And Navarrete as well. So this guy is, you know, he's been in there with some good operators. And I felt he won the fight. Personally, it was close, it was competitive, but I felt he just nicked it. One of the judges, it doesn't say it on BoxRec here, but one of the judges scored the fight 98-92. It means he only gave him 2 rounds. I never understand it, right? When a fight can be so close to everyone else looking, and it can be announced a split decision, right? And, you know, it could be a genuinely competitive fight, but one guy could maybe nick it by a round or two. And then a scorecard just comes out And you're like, what? You know, you gave him 2 rounds. Like, what were you watching? And when you see that, you're like, is it incompetence or is it just, you know, it's like corruption, right? And, you know, it becomes a point where it's always the house fire. It's not just with Hearn, it's with, you go and look around, even Europe, go to America, go anywhere. It's always, especially in Spain, places like that where it's real bad over there. If you've ever seen some of the shows over there, it's really bad in Spain for kind of things like that. You're like, something needs to change. Like, these judges, I don't understand how you could return such a different scorecard to the other two with that in a fight that was competitive. I just don't understand it. In terms of the card itself, look, it was a next gen show, so it was never going to be, you know, the Thriller Manila in terms of, you know, that, or it was never going to be like, you know, Tyson Holyfield undercard in terms of, you know, world titles and everything. But above all, I thought it was a decent card, to be fair. I understand why he's doing these next gen shows up north. A lot of these guys were from kind of Durham, Teesside, Northumbria kind of regions, so it makes no sense to do it in the south of the UK, in London or somewhere like that. It literally makes no sense, because you're not going to, none of their fans are going to, well, they probably would, but not in the same numbers if instead of going to Newcastle, going all the way, because it's a big trip down to London. So I understand why he was doing it up north. I remember Eddie Hearn used to do those next gen shows on Sky. He used to do them during the week. I loved that. I loved the next gen shows during the week, because they were, and some of them were very good. You know, I always go back to the one where Reece Bellotti fought Ryan Walsh. I think it was Ryan Walsh, and that whole show was really entertaining. Was really, really good. Lawrence Okoli, I think, fought Waddy Camacho on that show, and or maybe it was someone else. Actually, I think it was someone else there. Just his name escapes me, but it was a really, really good show, and that was the Sky days. I think it was a niche little thing Hearn had doing it during the week. I guess financially it's not viable, certainly now, to do them during the week. You just do it as a Saturday fight night, just dress it up as a next gen show. I get it. Overall, I thought the show was actually fine. I didn't think it was too bad. Tyen Boot had a fight last night. Oh yes, the old intro, the guy who used to do the intros. Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Yeah, people were asking me, his show was showing on Boxing King Media. I caught the first round of his fight. He looked terrible, and I thought, all right, this is going to be a bit of a stinker for 4 rounds. He ended up quitting, walking out of the ring in the 3rd round. Now, Tyen Boot is someone who is always giving it, right? He is always giving it. He is going to have to learn how to take it now, because he is going to get it for that performance. He is going to absolutely get it in the neck for that performance. So he is definitely going to have to learn how to take it, following on from that. In terms of the card that happened in Jamaica, I didn't watch it. I did see clips of it, highlights of the exhibition between Donovan Razor-Ruddock and James Toney. You know, Donovan Razor-Ruddock is 59 years old. I thought he was younger than that. No, he's 59 years old. He's nearly 60, right? And he's in a boxing ring with James Toney, who's about 55, 56, who is unbelievably punch drunk. So bad. How in God's name anyone would let him near a boxing ring is just beyond me. And you know what's weird, right? When you see someone and you know up there is not right, there's got to be CTE and other stuff going on up there. When you see them get hit in the head, even if it's slow clubbing shots, you're still like, stop hitting him in the head. The last thing he needs is more impact on that head, because God knows what's going on in there. It made no sense to me. It just seems stupid. Just why? And I think Triller were putting it on. Of course, they would put it on because they don't really give it down. They'd put on those freak shows anyway. But why? Just why? And I think Fight TV were selling it. I'd love to see the pay-per-view numbers for that. I can't imagine they were particularly stellar, to be honest with you. The pay-per-view numbers for this card that's being talked about, I would be interested to see what numbers this will do. I'd be interested to see the price of it, truth be told. So, let's bring it back to last week, right? Frank Warren gave an interview on TalkSport where he talked about having a mega show in Saudi Arabia on December the 23rd. Now, that was the proposed date for Fury Usyk. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen on that date now. Fury and Usyk, I think they mutually wanted to push the date back, you know, especially considering how Fury looked against Ngannou. So we're looking at around about February time. Okay, fine, fair enough. Okay, it's going to happen then, more than likely. But that leaves December the 23rd. And, you know, there was talk of Joshua maybe fighting in the UK or something. But now we're hearing, and Frank Warren was alluding to this, that there's going to be a big event on December the 23rd in Saudi with names galore, right? He didn't allude to who they'd be, but names galore. Then we heard that Joshua and Wilder were reportedly set to fight on the same night, but against different opponents. Now, Dan Raphael has said that, again, take it with a grain of salt, but this is the rumoured card. And I'm just, you know what, I'm looking at this and I'm just like, what the hell? Because I don't think I've ever seen a card this stacked in the time I've been watching boxing. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. If this is true and this card comes to fruition, honestly, look, I know, right? And I know, before anyone said, I know, we want to see Joshua Wilder, and we don't know why they can't just fight in the same card, right? But I look at it from a kind of glasses half full mentality, and I'm like, right, we're not getting Joshua Wilder, but god damn, this is a stack card. Holy, this is a stack card. Sorry, right? Possibly Jay Apataya versus, to be confirmed. That's Frank Warren's go-to guy. Every time you see Queensbury, you'll see TBC at some point on it. He's Frank Warren's top G. But Jay Apataya, Cruiserweight World Champion. Arslanbek Makhmedov against TBC to be confirmed. Frank Sanchez versus Junior Fa. Junior Fa, has he even fought since he got knocked out in a round by Lucas Brown? That just sounds so weird, getting knocked out in a round. Yes, knocked out in a round by Lucas Brown. That was on the undercard of Kambosos Haney 1, I believe. Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Big Farmer Miller. That could go real pear-shaped for Daniel Dubois fairly quick. That could go real bad for him. Yeah, Dubois has good power, and I'm sure he has the power to hurt Miller, but if he doesn't, Miller's going to be all over him like White is to Rice. And I could see Dubois capitulating real quick. Hrgovic versus to be confirmed. Now, the rumour mill I'm hearing is that it's actually going to be Martin Bakole, which Filip Hrgovic is IBF mandatory challenger to go and fight Martin Bakole. Considering the way he's looked lately and the way Bakole was 300 pounds in his fight against Carlos Takam. He said he only trained for a couple of weeks and it showed how heavy he was. But for me, that kind of puts that performance in a really, really good light, because Carlos Takam is a noted tough man. Even now, I mean, you need to be on your A game, right? Not necessarily to beat him, but in order to avoid having a really tough night. Because he's gone the distance with Arslanbek Makhmedov. He beat Tony Yoka. Takam is still useful. So for Bakole, if it's true, to only train 2 to 3 weeks and put on a performance like that, that's impressive. And if he'd obviously would be in better shape for Filip Hrgovic. And you can only base them on their last performances. Hrgovic looked Hrgovic looked bad against Zhang, and it puts that win in good light considering what Zhang has done. But he looked even worse against Dempsey McKean. I mean, that was just, I couldn't believe what I was seeing from Hrgovic in that fight. He looked terrible in there. If that Hrgovic turns up against an in-shape Bakole, it's going to be a tough night for Filip Hrgovic. And you know, some would say, like, why would you put your mandatory status on the line like that? Because for those who don't know, with the IBF, if Hrgovic has an 8-rounder, that's still seen as a final eliminator, right? It doesn't matter. As long as you're fighting, that's it. It's an eliminator. So you're putting that on the risk against potentially someone as dangerous as Bakole. I mean, credit to him, but you don't need to. But God knows how much the Saudis are willing to pay. I believe, alright, well, other than Jay Apataya, Dimitri Bivol versus Richard Rivera is the only other non-heavyweight fight on this card. And that's a decent scrap, to be fair. Like, Rivera is not on Bivol's level, but he, you know, some people could say he arguably beat Badu Jack, who, that was a cruiserweight, so he'd probably have the size advantage on Dimitri Bivol. We all like seeing Dimitri Bivol. Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker. Again, like, I mean, that right there, Joe Parker versus Deontay Wilder. It's not some would argue it's a tougher fight than Andy Ruiz. I would probably say Parker on his night, yeah, for me it's a tougher fight than Andy Ruiz, which is a fight that for some reason Team Wilder didn't seem massively keen on. I don't know why, because I genuinely think Ruiz is easier stylistically for Wilder than Parker could be. But saying that, what Parker do we get? Do we get a Parker who, you know, turns up like he did against Jack Massey or Junior Fa? Or do we get a Parker who turned up like he did against Simon Keane? Who, yeah, Simon Keane is no great shake, certainly not. And Deontay Wilder would make light work of him too, probably quicker. But he definitely seemed a lot more with it. I don't know. I mean, that chin's obviously been dinted against Joe Joyce. And how is that going to hold up to a Wilder right hand? That is the question. How's Wilder going to look? That's another question, because at the end of the day, we're basing Wilder off one round against Robert Helenius last year and nothing else since then. It's a massive step up going from Robert Helenius to Joseph Parker. It's a big, big step up, so we don't know how Wilder is post-Fury. Like, this will be the first real kind of gauge we'll get. If he comes through, Joseph Parker, with no issues, that's a statement in of itself, especially if he stops him early. That's a big statement. And then finally, we have Otto Wallin versus Anthony Joshua. I don't envision that being a particularly compelling fight, to be honest with you. I think that Joshua would box Otto Wallin, and Otto Wallin would be happy to get into a boxing match. I think Joshua is just better than Wallin, so he would win. But I think Wallin is just a tricky, awkward fight. And, you know, it got me thinking, right? It got me worried about not getting Joshua versus Wilder. I'll tell you why. Because Eddie Hearn talked about Joshua potentially fighting Filip Hrgovic for the IBF title, okay? And then obviously Otto Wallin beat Murat Gassiev. He goes in at number 2, meaning that if the IBF title gets vacated, which it more than likely will, after we have the undisputed fight, then Hrgovic is going to fight Otto Wallin for the vacant title. Now, if Joshua beats Otto Wallin, which I expect him to, he'll then usurp Otto Wallin as number 2 in the world. Maybe they'd even put him at number 1. I don't know. But he would be in contention to fight for the vacant title. That would mean then that they could potentially say, see you later, Deontay Wilder. We're going for the IBF title against Hrgovic. That'd be in-house. Both matchroom fighters, both the zone fighters. That would probably be maybe Eddie Hearn's preference. Would it be Joshua's preference? That I don't know. But that's a worry in one regard when you're like, okay, Otto Wallin, he offers literally nothing from a stylistic point of view to Deontay Wilder. Literally nothing. They're complete chalk and cheese in terms of styles. That's a worry I would have, that if he fights Otto Wallin and beats him, does that mean then that there's actually less chance we'd see the Wilder fight, even though they fought on the same card, because he'll usurp him in the rankings? It means then when the vacant title or when the title becomes vacant, they can say, right, we're going for a world title instead. 3-time world champion. I do worry that might happen. I often say this, and I've been proven right several times, that in the heavyweight division, especially when fighters who are planning on fighting one another in the future sign for a fight beforehand, or, you know, they're all but confirmed to fight beforehand, that's when things go awry. You know, it nearly went awry with Fury versus Ngannou, right? That nearly went awry there. With Joshua, twice it's gone awry. You know, when he lost to Andy Ruiz, him, Wilder and Fury had 3 fights within a month of one another. I think it was Wilder first against Brazil. He took care of him. Then it was Joshua against Ruiz. He obviously lost, and then Fury fought Tom Schwartz. He was always going to win that. But I remember going into that little you know, cycle of the 3 fights, saying one of them was going to lose. You know, who'll be as one of them's going to lose. One of them was going to lose. It just had something in the air. One of them was going to lose. Then you go fast forward to 2021, 2 years later, and there's talk of Fury versus Joshua, and you're thinking, okay, Fury has to rematch Wilder. The arbitration ruled in Wilder's favour. He has to fight him. Now Joshua's going to face his mandatory. But once they come through their respective fights, they could fight one another. But then you looked and you thought, okay, they're fighting within a fortnight of one another against 2 very dangerous fighters. One of them's going to take an L. And I remember even thinking back and looking at my videos, I was saying I wouldn't be shocked if one of them takes an L. And I said the most likely would be Joshua taking an L against Usyk. And that's exactly what happened. Michael Bent, I couldn't think of his name earlier, but Michael Bent fought Tommy Morrison. Tommy Morrison was meant to be fighting Lennox Lewis in a unification of sorts. He was WBO champion. Lewis was WBC champion. And back then, the WBO, I should say, was lightly regarded. But it was a unification of sorts for the 90s. Never happened. Why? Michael Bent knocked Tommy Morrison out and around. These things happen in the heavyweight division. You plan a certain fight, you have it all ready to go, and then someone takes an L. It's just Holyfield, Tyson. You know, they were meant to fight. Holyfield was mandatory for Mike Tyson. He was ringside when Tyson fought Buster Douglas. He was next in line. And, you know, I remember at the time, well, obviously I wasn't alive at the time, but I remember watching it, and at the time they were saying, you know, Holyfield has gone to Japan and he's just seen his multi-million-dollar fight go up in flames. And we obviously got the Buster Douglas fight, but we had to wait 6 years for him to fight Mike Tyson. 6 years. These things happen in the heavyweight division. And judging by those 2 names there, this has gone on for a lot longer than this one subject, but hear me out. Those 2 names there, Parker and Wallin, would not shock me at all if one of them sprung an upset. Wouldn't shock me even in the slightest if one of them pulled an upset. Francis Ngannou was expected to be confirmed in the top 10 rankings at heavyweight in the WBC convention coming up this week. This will mean that he is in line. He could potentially fight Fury in a rematch for the world title. Yeah, he still lost. So, thanks for trying. Here's the top 10 ranking. Get the F out of here. That's Sullivan for you, though. He really is, you know what, he's just something else. He really is. Eddie Hearns reportedly told reporters that he believes Eubank versus Conor Benn will most likely take place on February the 3rd at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I don't think it's that big a fight for Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, truth be told. I think it's 0-2. I think that fight is 0-2. I don't think ambitious to put it on in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but I don't think it will do that. I really don't think. I think that is a O2 Arena or OVO. I don't think it's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, in my opinion. This isn't really boxing, but Tony Bellew going to appear on the next series of I'm a Celebrity, starting on November 19th. Wow. Right. For a man who said you'll never see me again, we're certainly seeing him a lot lately. I'm a Celebrity. Right. Okay. I've never watched it. I've no intention of watching it. Is that going to compel me to watch it? No. But yeah, he's on I'm a Celebrity. Okay, well done. Some achievement. Ayo. Anyway, what else do we have to look at here? I seen... oh yeah, of course, we have to talk about this. Terence Crawford, stripped of the IBF title. Jerome Boots Ennis, I rate the kid very highly. He's a tremendous fighter, but he is now IBF world champion. So Terence Crawford is no longer undisputed at 147 pounds. It's reported now that Boots Ennis will have to make a defense of his world title against Mario Barros next, but he insists Crawford is his main target. He says here, and I quote, "It's not the way we wanted to win the belt. You'd rather take the belt from somebody. It was out of my hands." That's exactly what I was saying. You know, for someone like Jerome Ennis, it's not how you really want to win a belt. It's not, you know. Especially, he was mentioning Crawford for a while now. You really want to go and fight the champion and take the belt off him. Especially if it's your first world title. That's got to be a momentous occasion. Your first world title, you're fighting the champion, you take the belt off him. Even if you're fighting for a vacant title, you're still going in and winning the title. With Ennis, he wins an interim title and then he gets an email saying, "Congratulations, well done." It's not, it takes away. It does. And he's even admitting it. It's not the same. You know, you go to bed one day and you're thinking, right, what's going to happen tomorrow? Oh, email. Oh, I'm world champion. Well, it's like your birthday. You know, I don't celebrate my birthday. It's like I go to bed 1 minute, I'm 28, the next day I'm 29. I feel the exact same as I did the day before. I felt the exact same when I went from 20 to 21. I feel the exact same. It ain't no difference. And I can imagine it's something similar. You go to bed, interim champion, you wake up full champion, you're like, I've done nothing. I would have loved to have seen him versus Crawford. Crawford is obligated contractually to fight Errol Spence, whether it be at 147 or 154. I would love it. Love it if Crawford fought, or even if he didn't, even if Errol Spence just decided I'm going a different direction, I'm retiring, whatever. But I would love it if after all that is said and done, Crawford decides, I'm going to fight Boots Ennis. I want to be 2-time undisputed at welterweight. I would love it, because for me, that is such a compelling fight. I'm very high on Boots Ennis, as you know. I think it's a tremendous fight. I really do. I'd love to see it. And I would make Crawford favourite. I would. I'd be picking Terence Crawford to win. And as I've said several times, you look at Boots Ennis, and I think he's going to have an amazing career. Even if he fights Crawford and loses, he's going to have an amazing career. And if you're Terence Crawford, you beating the Boots Ennis and him going on having the career I expect him to have, that is going to enhance your legacy tenfold. I'll give you an example of you know, at the time this win wasn't really seen as much. You know, it wasn't really held in high regard, but over the course of this man's career, it's aged very well. You know, and I know it's different. It's not a case of an older fighter fighting a younger fighter. This was kind of I'll tell you about it. 2013, Tony Bellew fought Adonis Stevenson. Adonis Stevenson, who was mandatory at 168 for Carl Froch, ended up fighting Chad Dawson at 175, knocked Dawson out in the round. I think he fought Tavoris Cloud, then he had a mandatory defence against Tony Bellew, who was mandatory at 175. And Bellew was a big light heavyweight. Went in there against Stevenson, completely outboxed, taken apart. It wasn't even competitive. And Bellew got knocked out in the 6th round. He got dropped once in that round with a left hand, and the referee, I think it was Michael Griffin who refereed that fight, Adonis Stevenson got Bellew in the corner, hit him with a left hand. Bellew was out on his feet. Thank God Griffin jumped in when he did, because another shot, Bellew could have been seriously hurt. That win has aged so well for Stevenson, because Bellew went to cruiserweight. He won a world title off Makabu, who again, that win for Bellew was aged quite well. I know Makabu now is over the hill, but he was doing some good work before him. Goes to heavyweight and fights David Haye, beats David Haye twice, gives a good account of himself against Usyk. Adonis, he was more competitive with Usyk than he was against Stevenson. That's a fact. You can't. He was competitive early against Usyk, was Bellew. He was very competitive. He wasn't competitive at all against Adonis Stevenson. I mean, Adonis Stevenson just kept him at range and pieced him apart with that left hand. That win aged brilliantly for Stevenson. Brilliant. He wasn't even competitive. And something like that, I think it'd be a lot more competitive, Boots Ennis against Crawford than Stevenson against Bellew was, but it would age very well, and it would enhance Crawford's legacy, I believe, if he did. I suspect he probably won't fight Boots Ennis regardless what happens, but I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. Eddie Hearn revealed that Joshua has been training behind the scenes with Ben Davison for his past few fights. Yeah, I touched on that already. Interesting. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you, because yeah, Ben Davison is a good coach, but as I said, too many cooks spoil the broth. Joshua, if Ben Davison tells him one thing in camp and then Derek James tells him another, he's a tendency to overthink. Joshua needs one voice who he listens to the whole time, because he's going to rely on that one voice the whole time. If he has other people saying this or saying that, he's got to start questioning himself. Joshua needs a Derek James to explain him constantly through a fight. That's what he needs. He needs that. He does. He needs that reassurance. Let's see what else is there. Regis Prograis. I'm going to stop Devin Haney. He's not a defensive master. Yeah, I think that's a 50-50 fight. It's a really competitive fight, Regis Prograis against Devin Haney. Really, 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 really competitive fight. Tom Loeffler believes Golovkin has earned the right to do whatever he wants. I'm seconding that 100%. I second that every time. Whatever Triple G does, if he wants to call it quits, he's earned that right. Triple G, we love Triple G on here. We do. We love Triple G. Triple G, we love Triple G. We love Triple G. We really do. What else? Otto Wallin, I think with Usyk, that Fury is still the favourite, but Usyk will give him a really good fight. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Fury does open as the favourite against Usyk, to be honest with you. It really wouldn't, but it's going to be a tough fight for both guys, believe that. Fury underestimated Ngannou, says Alexander Usyk. He will be different with me. Yes, certainly, he definitely will be. 100%. He's not. We will see a much better Fury against Usyk, and that I have no doubt. Will it be enough to win? Remains to be seen. Logan Paul, no plans to return to boxing, will instead focus on his WWE career. Yeah, Jake is the better boxer. Logan is the better wrestler. Not that wrestling is real, it's fake as anything, but he's better at doing the choreographed moves than he is at getting hit for real. Jake Paul is not a terrible fighter, but he ain't going to do anything at world level. He already lost Tommy Fury. That's his level. Jamel Herring open to Emmanuel Navarrete showdown. I would advise against that if I were you. He will... Look, Jamal Herring came back recently. I can't remember the guy's name. Something Molina. But look, Herring looked pretty bad against Shakur. He fought an ancient Carl Frampton. He hadn't looked amazing going into the Frampton fight. Now I think that is just no. He would eat him for breakfast at this point, Navarrete. He really would. He would absolutely eat that guy for breakfast. Is there anything else? Tommy Fury convinced Jake Paul would knock out KSI. Jake Paul dropped Tommy Fury, but KSI, you could make an argument he legitimately won that fight. Certainly could. Is there much else to say? Not really. Warren, Historic Night of Boxing, yeah, on December 23rd. If it's all a go, it's a looking good. Looking at that card, I'm a looking and I'm a liking. I'm hoping we get it. I really do. I think that's pretty much it for what happened over the last few days, over the course of the week. So I will leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Hope you all have a great week. Hopefully we can keep the growth going. The goal is 15k in the next couple of weeks. We're looking forward to hitting that. It's going to be amazing. 15k, boom. 20k next year, lads. 20 flipping k next year, 100%. Thanks again for everyone who locked in. If you got this far, well done. I enjoyed it. I enjoy doing these videos. I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I hope everyone has a great week. I hope we all get some good news this week. Please let it be. Let's all get some good news to everyone involved. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace.